She goes tomorrow, but she keeps telling me she's not quite sure yet. This is what I deal with every day.
Kidnap her, put her in the car.
My sister's picked her up and she's like, you're getting it whether you want it.
Did you get an appointment list?
I did not yet.
Okay.
I did not. I can do it today.
Agreement, just so everyone knows it's 50 o'clock, it's on. So I think everyone needs to. You're on. Is your volume off? Your volume is off. All right, this is a test. So I'm speaking. If everyone's speakers down, we should be good to go. And I believe we are streaming effectively online.
They have 7 o'clock on here. I'll just give it a couple seconds
Yeah.
for Craig to get in.
Okay, good. All right. Let me see if I can actually hear that stream.
Craig, are you able to get in? Oh, okay. We can see you.
Okay, yep, that's good.
All right, good evening, everybody. We'll get started. I'm going to call the meeting to order. This meeting is held in compliance with the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law. The Clinton Glen Gardner Board of Education has given the public adequate notice by having the date, time, and place of the meeting published in the Hunterdon County Democrat and Hunterdon Review, and by having duly posted the same information in the board office, the school bulletin board, the faculty room, and the town hall. Roll call. Carl. Craig.
Here.
Lorraine.
Here.
Megan.
Here.
And Brendan. Here. All right. First order of business is to turn our attention to the monthly school data. Dr. Cohen.
Okay, welcome everyone. Share our enrollment data. No suspensions for this month. The nurses report. No HIB investigations, and our fire drill and bus evacuation drill report.
Could I get a motion to accept the aforementioned monthly school data report, items 4A through E? Could I get that motion? Carl, thank you. Could I get a second? Lorraine, thank you. Any questions or clarifications? Oh, okay. All right, so we'll hold off on that to the next session. Okay, sounds good. Okay, so we'll turn our attention then to the superintendent and principal's report. Dr. Cohen.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to unmute, and I am unmuted. All right. Yeah, just a quick update. Lots happening in school as we get prepared for our reopening, the phased-in reopening. So we were again recognized as a Safe Routes to School, and I'd like to thank Mrs. Bulger and everyone else connected with our Walk to School program and the other things that we do to be designated Safe Routes to School, including the Town of Clinton reopening. So the 15th is grades 8, 2, 3, and 4. 22nd is 5, 6, and 7, and the 29th will be grade 1. So lots of movement in the building. We have multiple room changes in order to fit the students in, and it's been a collaborative effort with the staff to make sure that everyone is where they need to be. We're using the gym for 5th grade, the other side of the gym for 6th grade, a couple satellite rooms for 5, 6, and then a lot of different rooms. Small rooms have to move to big rooms. So those are all happening over the next 2 weeks in a pretty precise order. So, but what that means is that kids are coming back, and that's great. The basketball is going well. Boys and girls are practicing on opposite sides of the gym with the wall up, and it's great. It's great to see the students. It's a little bit of normal in an abnormal year. They're wearing their masks for the entire practice, and if you could see through the mask, I'm sure there would be smiles. And it's great. And thanks to Mr. Bidwell and to Mr. Harris for running those programs. Pick up and drop off. I'll be sending out a communication about that. We just have to be a little more precise in the morning for the pick up and drop off, just because there'll be more kids. And some of the entrances are different than they've been in the past. So I'm just going to ask everyone to please, if you drive your child to school, please don't get out of the car. If you have to get out of the car, park in a marked spot and walk your child in. If not, they should be able to exit the vehicle on the passenger side. That will make it a lot safer. So if you're currently getting out to pull your child out of the car, please don't do that. Just park in a spot, and we'll cross you so you can come over if you need to do that. And also, what some people do is they use the walker's path. So they'll park at the bottom of the hill, and their kids will get out of their car there, and then the kids walk up the walker's path instead of messing with School Street and the school. So just I think just anticipating more cars, and that would be helpful. We're working on one of the other things with reopening. So pick up and drop off, also recess and snack. We're really coordinating who's outside and when, and who's outside for snack, who's outside for recess, and since we're using the gym for academics, who's outside for gym. So we've got an evolving schedule with that. And we just, again, appreciate everyone's flexibility as we do our best to balance safety and being a child. But safety will be, always really important for what we do outside. So thank you for that. The tent, we got a 20 by 40 foot tent being delivered to the back of the school field. And that will be another area for students and staff to be. It could be a snack area, it could be an outdoor classroom area, but there will be covered area out back, 20 by 40. And I'm not sure if it's on the agenda. Is that Tcc Grant on the agenda to acknowledge that? Okay, yeah. So we received a $1,000 grant from Tcc Communications, and they're connected with Verizon. And we're going to use, it's an Amazon gift card, and we were entered into a drawing for that, and we won, so that's great. And we're going to use that money for additional tents for outside, some for the courtyards, and some for the back area where the kids play Foursquare. So there'll be tents all over. If there's a little drizzle, we could still go outside and get some fresh air, and even for music lessons outside under a tent will be a nice place to be. We're starting to get the wheels moving with the summer enrichment. We're working on what our budget is. and Mrs. Turner is going to be sending out a survey to the staff to see who's available to teach or who wants to teach in the summer for that enrichment program. Like I said, it'll be about 4 weeks, but depending on the enrollment and the staffing will depend on who comes what week. But we're excited. It'll be theme-based. It'll be a combination of learning and fun. So that's where we are. We're also looking at our budgets for next year, all the moving pieces that come with that, including federal grants for COVID, on top of revenue, on top of loss of state aid. Not as bad as we thought. Bernadette will talk a little bit about that, which is good. So, I mean, everything's coming together, and Bernadette's been working really hard to create a budget that maintains everything that we have, and we're starting to shift our trajectory to now what can we do, which is a really almost a scary place to be, but it's a great place to be. So we're working on that, and you'll see on the agenda we have a couple of retirements, and so part of we're very sad to see our staff members go, but super happy for them to be able to retire. And then, the opportunities that brings for new staff, new hires, orientation. So it's going to be a busy and fun summer. Lebanon Borough approved the contract at their meeting. So it's been signed by their board president. We will sign it tonight and then it will be official. So that's great. Again, thank you to everyone for that. And their 7th graders come next year, and 7th and 8th grade come the year after that. So we're already talking with Mrs. Crespo some of the transition activities. So stay tuned for that. Just as a matter of conversation, I'm sure we'll hear about more on Friday when I have my monthly meeting. But there is continued talk about district regionalization, and the newest piece of legislation talks about modify certain procedures pertaining to school district regionalization, and it establishes grant programs for cost reimbursement of conducting feasibility studies and incentives for regionalization. So that will be in the news, and it'll be more part of the conversation over the next year, as it has been for the last 20 years. But just stay tuned for that. Vaccines, we have like a little train going on here. Everyone's helping each other out. If you get a good link, people are sharing. So staff, as they can, are getting vaccinated, which is really nice. And again, it's nice to see how everyone's pulling together to help each other out to try and figure out the system, which is really strange in New Jersey. If you've tried to get a vaccine, it's almost impossible. But we're getting there, and we continue to get there. For the last 4 or 5 days, we've been able to get people appointments pretty much every day, 1 or 2 here or there for everyone that qualifies now. So it's good. And that's the report for where we are right now.
Thank you. I guess one quick question. I know as over the past several years, as I've met with the cluster group of districts that send to North Voorhees, regionalization has been a topic there, and that group was at a point of potentially looking at a feasibility study just sort of independently. I know North was sort of championing that work a little bit. You're talking about a different set of incentives coming from the state to support the financing of those studies. And is that a mandate coming from the state to explore it, or they're trying to bear some of the fiscal burden of districts looking to explore it?
Yeah, I think they're trying to remove barriers for why people wouldn't study regionalization. But yeah, I think on our end, we can look right, I guess, down the road to South Hunterdon for their experience on regionalization. It's a good case study of what actually happens and savings and et cetera.
Well, I don't think there were any savings.
Right.
I think the budgets were all combined.
Right.
It's
it's a complicated endeavor. It really is. So we'll see where that turns. But
separate question. I guess the state is still sort of signaling its intent to move forward with the NJSLA assessments, or none of it's moved forward, but they haven't said they're not doing it. And then most recently, the state has been putting out requests for data just regarding student performance, and it was I think folks are trying to figure out if the data requests are potentially in lieu of NJSLA, or if it's going to be data requests to see how schools are monitoring basically how kids are doing, but there's still potentially an intention to conduct the tests. Do you have any additional information on that?
We do not. I know Jackie's been attending meetings as they happen, and no one really knows. And that's, but every day that goes on where they haven't made a decision on state testing, it makes it more and more difficult to think that they're actually going to require it, because between the kids that are 100% virtual and the kids that are in school, and any level of test security or any level, I mean, I don't know how they're going to do it if they want to do it. I think you may be on to something where they're looking at a quasi-parallel piece of data to say, well, even though we didn't test this year, according to the information we received from local school districts, third grade students progress from here to here on these assessments. And so I think maybe that's more the narrative, but I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, it seems, as you said, there were things that were to have begun a month ago if it was going forward that haven't happened, and there's no news of it.
Building-wide scheduling, it's just,
All right. Any additional questions, comments, or clarifications on Dr. Cohen's report? All right. That brings us to the first public comment section of the evening. Folks online, if you're attending, you have the ability to email comments, and those comments will be read aloud and addressed as we are able to. And just know that there is a second public comment section in the evening should you not be able to get a comment in on the first. At this moment, Dr. Cohen or Mrs. Wang, do we have any comments?
Yes, we have one from Mrs. Stoll.
Okay, you're not, audio's not on.
It isn't?
Have
Okay.
that. There you go.
All right. Great. So Mrs. Stoll wants to thank you again for getting all my kids back to school 5 days a week. Sorry if I missed the answer to this already. Will kids now be allowed to use playground equipment and share equipment outside now at recess or outside time?
Dr. Cohen, I know you addressed a little bit of the outdoors. I don't know the particulars of
yeah. I mean, yes, we're working on that. I was actually talking with Mr. Bidwell about creating grade level soccer ball bags for the classes, and that would be a good start, as they're really using their feet and they're not using too much of the shared touching equipment. So we're working on that. And then the playground, we started conversations with that, but we didn't get that far about how we would schedule and who can go on it when. So if we do end up opening up the playground, it would probably end up having to be by homeroom, by recess period, on a rotation, so that we don't have too many kids on there at the same time. But we haven't gotten there yet. But we are thinking about it. I
guess one question I might have is, were districts given guidance protocol or restrictions as regards playgrounds? And I guess I'm only asking that because, as the weather turns nice, driving through town, I see the community playground is getting used.
Yeah.
And I'd imagine not getting. I have no clue how it's, if and how it's, or even expected to be sanitized, or if it's really just a use as you go and clean as you go sort of expectation.
Yeah, I think you're right. I've seen playgrounds across different communities open as well. I've never seen them cleaned, and I'm not sure that they are, and I'm not sure that that's been a spot where major outbreaks have started. But even still, I think we that's something we would have to consider as we do that. We have the electrostatic sprayers to spray down the playground in the morning before a grade level use it wouldn't be a big deal. We could totally do that, and if we end up instituting a scheduled playground assigned time, then we would do that. But yeah, so we are thinking about it. We're going to start with soccer balls, and then we'll see how things evolve. But we also just want to stay open too. I want to stay open.
So start at the feet and work our way up.
Absolutely, yeah. But I know it's a tough year to be a kid. It really is. It's on every level. It's so tough to be a kid this year, and we're doing our best to safely make it as normal as we can. It's tough.
On a separate note, and I guess as the weather begins to turn, and I know we've got the tents and things of that sort, is the outdoor classroom something that would remain a viable option? Sure. I don't know what sort of considerations would have to go into operation there being outside.
I mean, no, I think it would absolutely be a place to go. You've got the tables, you've got the stools. It would probably just require a wipe down before another class used it, but yeah, no, absolutely. So yeah, I think as the spring goes on, you're gonna start to see migration to the outside spaces as much as possible. I think the outdoor classroom will be used. I think the tent space will be used. I think the courtyards we're gonna probably end up having to schedule the courtyards because people are gonna want to go out there. So yeah, I think that'll happen. And again, we're trying, and just even using the walker's path and getting the kids to walk around. I think we'll see more of that as more people become vaccinated, more people become comfortable, and we're able to spread our wings a little bit more.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Wang, are there any additional comments or questions at this point? All right, thank you. As stated, there is a second public comment later in the agenda. Ms. Wang, so just to confirm, we're not going to move these items. Okay, we're just going to review. So we do have under personnel a few items: retirement, substitute custodians, and staff approvals. So I don't know, Dr. Cohen, if you want to highlight anything.
Yeah. So Mrs. Smith and Mrs. Beniva are retiring, and like I said, very sad to see them go, but very happy for them. They've both had a major impact on CPS over the years that they've been here, and but I mean, they're retiring at the top of their game. Both of them. So more next week, but really you wouldn't know that they're retiring this year. It's still advocating, working hard every day, in the toughest year that I'm sure that they've both had. So super happy for them. Sad for us, but now we begin the work of trying to find a replacement. But I have a feeling that more will come in this year across the state. It's going to be a year that people do retire, I think, and I think it's. We'll see what happens, but yeah, so happy for them, and then another substitute teacher to come on board, and something that we'll bring up probably at the next meeting is raising our sub nurse pay. Ours is I think $120. I think is our rate, about 120, 135, and that's on the low end of where we are, and we'll have some information for you next week. We're looking to increase that for, moving forward. The nurses are always critical, but even more so now. And we need to be competitive so that we can attract nurses that want to help out. And we have them now, but also I think it's good to be competitive on that end.
Okay, thank you. And certainly wanting to wish all the best to Mrs. Ava and Mrs. Smith also, and we will revisit those items in our business session. Turning our attention to curriculum, instruction, assessment, and technology, we have a professional development item. I don't know, Dr. Cohen, if there's anything specific you just want to note on that?
No, just continuing to learn even during a pandemic.
And then we go to policy and regulations. So this is our first official. Actually, I'm losing track. If this is our official moving of them this time.
Yeah, the next week we will.
Next week will
be the final reading, and
reading.
the fourth time that we visit.
That's why I'm getting confused. Right. So I don't know at this point if there's any additional questions, or Dr. Cohen, if there's any particular decision points that have to be resolved at this point, or everything?
I think we're in good shape.
Okay. All right. So we have one final week to consider those, and if you recall, it was there were quite a few of them this time around. and a lot of replacing old language with new language and a number of mandated items as well. So that brings us to the Business Administrator's Report, and we'll turn things over to Ms. Wang.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so we are moving forward for the 21-22 school budget. And I gave the board a little bit of the highlight, and I'll provide a little bit more details next week. This is just a draft. And next week we'll be asking for the board to approve because the submission has to be done by Monday the 22nd to the county. But a couple of highlights. This year we were able to pretty much maintain the 2-point general increase, but the one item that I was able to secure was that we were able to find additional about $89,000 worth of the bank cap that therefore we can add it to the tax levy because it expired this year. So either you use it or lose it. So that brought us to the $7,660,592, and it's just about the exact increase as last year at 3.17%. So so definitely nothing it is horrible, and we're maintaining consistency. But a couple of things to know: the state aid has definitely gone down quite a bit, but we were fortunate, or at least the state were able to give us a little bit more on the equalization aid for Clinton, as much as they took away $175,000 from Glen Gardner. We recouped some of the additional aid, and it leveled out to be about 90,000 loss. So we were a little bit better than what I expect, but any little thing will help. So we ended up having the 90,000 loss of state aid, but since I was able to recoup some of the bank cap, it sort of is a bit of a wash to help us out. And as Dr. Cohen said, that this year we have about 7 students coming in from Lebanon, Borough, and that gave us the tuition about $105,000. So that's a big help in managing our budget. And also, as the board had heard many times with the educators' plan, we are kicking in a little bit more from the board side to cover for the loss of contribution and the increase of the premium. And what I was able to do is, since we were able to put a little bit more money into the emergency reserve last year with the end of operation, I took out money as part of the I don't want to say plugging the hole, but the thing is that in order to make the loss a little bit less intense. So that's where you see the withdrawal from emergency reserve of $135,000. So that was what we were able to put away last year in anticipation of the loss. And that number is based on the $90,000 that was projected. And then I'm anticipating there will be additional people that are moving off our traditional one. So at about 90, and I took another half. So that's how I came up with 135 in taking into, and I'm hoping that will be a good number as far as, but until the open enrollment, it's a guessing game. So those were a couple of things. Everything else is pretty much maintaining about the same. We have a little bit of the repayment of the debt. One of the debt matured. And this year, we do not have any additional of the transfer from the capital funding to offset. So the total local debt levy went up just a little bit by about $15,000. But I think that overall, the increase is negligible. So we ended up looking at the revenue and the total expenditure at about $9,554,000. So the overall is what I believe is a sustainable budget. And there might be a couple of things that after talking with the county, but there's not much movement as far as the tax levy and the revenue stream. So that's about where we are going. And as I said, next week, I will be able to firm up some of the specific general fund, the fixed asset, and some of the capital expenditure. So, but everything else pretty much is what we need to disclose for the county. That there is the limit on the maximum travel appropriation. That the maximum of regular business travel per employee. Those are just the regulation that we have to maintain. And as in previous year, the 30,000 reduction from the borrower Glenn Garner for the debt. And that is the agreed upon since the 2009 merger. So nothing really is unusual except the fact that I was happy we were able to get the bank cap in there. And then we're certainly welcoming the Lebanon borrow into our revenue stream.
All right, thank you very much. Just, I guess, out of curiosity, Dr. Cohen, with as far as the budget and the types of projections that we're seeing, just where our student enrollment is, what the additional students at grade 7, and then I guess looking forward to the next year at grade 8. Do you have any projections just in terms of programming or staffing where we might be seeing some movement or shifts?
Yeah, I think we'll end up having 3 sections of 7th and 8th grade next year. When we haven't had that for a while, it's been kind of 3-2, 3-2. So that, but again, I think we're built for that staffing wise to be able to manage that. So yeah, I think we should be okay on that end. But I think, as we talked about, we are looking to grow our staff. If not next year, the year after, and in a couple different areas have popped up in terms of mental health services and additional teaching staff. So we'll see exactly where that shakes out. But yeah, I think we should be fine for next year, and then the year after that, we should be looking at some additional staff to help kind of continue to grow our programs.
Okay, thank you. Any additional questions from Ms. Wang or Dr. Cohen at this point? All right. We have our usual monthly financial minutes, and we'll approve those at the next meeting as well. We have one piece of correspondence, the semi-waiver approval letter, which we'll approve also officially next week, or next meeting.
Right.
And we do have just some new business in terms of the ethics and financial disclosures, and they look a little bit different this year.
Yeah.
I just
want to go over. I'm not privy to why the state decided to change the format and how everything has to be done. But this year they made it very specific that you need to set up your own account. And I gave everyone the email as well as the attachment, the PowerPoint, and the letter to all the board members' email. So, and I think that they spelled it out pretty easily. But again, like anything else, when you have a new change, it always becomes more difficult. The question itself remains the same. It's just the way the process they want you to do, upload, download this way, every which way from Sunday. But, if there's any, but just rest assured that all the questions are exactly the same as previous year. I think that once we can get over the logistic of how they want us to kind of feedback on the format. So absolutely, if there's any issue, please just give me a call. But you have the ID and you guys have the information, the walkthrough on the PowerPoint to go through. And, but I just want to highlight that it is different.
Well, having done it recently, it did require the download of the document. It was an interactive document, but then you did have to save it, and as a separate step, upload it as an attachment.
Right.
So
I think that for anyone who's used to, working with documents, it's easier. But I think that, it's not to expect the board. This is not something that will, be kind of instinctive. So I just want to be sure that information is there. And for, Mrs. Moore, the due date is end of March because that's being a new member. I know they only released this like last week, and yet they're not moving the dates. So,
I think the normal date is April
for the rest of the board member. correct, the returning board. But usually we get this back in January, as Mr. Soul very well know. I ask him at every meeting that, so this is actually, I only have to ask him maybe twice this time, right, to get the information. But they only release the software because they have so much trouble managing it. So, but maybe it's just a shorter pain level that if we can get it done. But again, please feel free to, just call or email. And, and even if it's something that, I think that they just came out and saying that you can have a download of a physical copy and you can return it to me and I will physically then go in and update it, for that. So whichever way, the point is that, if the information is there, I can help.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right. So,
As far as old business, I believe we have a Dear Parents that's for next week. That'll be going out at the end of March, I think.
Correct, yep.
And then as far as liaison reports, does anybody have any updates from any of the liaisons? As I said, I'll be curious to see if the K-8 cluster group sort of starts up again, particularly with the conversation of districting, but we'll see. Nothing as of yet. Nothing else? All right. That brings us to our second public comment section for the evening. Mrs. Wang, any additional comments? Okay, we do have one.
there is one from Mrs. Calvert, and she wanted first, I want to say thank you for getting the kids back in 5 half days. I never thought I would be so excited for a half day. I know we're at step 1, but wondering if there are any plans to have the children return full days this school year. Wondering if opinions have changed now that Clinton Township has announced that for spring break, they will begin 5 half days, and after spring break, they will be returning to 5 full days, with lunch being served in the classroom.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we're happy the kids are back 5 days a week as well. Yeah, I don't. We're really focused right now on getting the kids in safely for those 5 days a week, and we haven't walked down the road yet of the full day, but we do have full day right now for anyone in the entire district that wants it. So full day coverage, right? So at 12:45, if you need childcare, your child can stay here for free until 3 o'clock in our program. But as far as the academic full 5 day, we haven't gotten down to that road yet. We're really going to focus. We want to do these 5 half days full. Pretty much everyone except kindergarten will be here for the 2.5 hour day. We want to make sure we do that well and safe. So we'll reflect after we get everyone in. And again, the timeline on that is the 15th, the 22nd, and the 29th. And then we'll have a week off for spring break, and hopefully everything's going well at that point.
One question I have is there, and I don't know if you hear talk of this at the roundtables that you attend, is there any discussion of districts being on the lookout for any sort of spike post spring break, the way we were looking around each of the holidays? And I guess, and I don't know if the thinking or the caution is any different there, especially with people being back outside and with vaccinations being in the mix, if folks will simply just be a little more casual around some of those events. And I don't know, is there anything coming from the county health department in acknowledgement of that?
No, nothing from the county health department, but definitely in conversation. I think that there's a little bit of a different spike potential with spring break as compared to New Year's, right? Because spring break for parts of the state is the week that we're off, and for other parts, it's the week before us. So it's not like it's New Year's where everyone was doing something that night, maybe. So that may lessen the spike a little bit. Again, you're starting to see everyone knows someone who's been vaccinated in some way, shape, or form, so that helps. But on the flip side, youth sports are in full swing, from almost in every level and every activity. So there's definitely it's that I think we're kind of floating at a balance between people are moving forward with their lives and doing things that they used to do. At the same time, they're getting vaccinated, but at the same time, people are still testing positive. I send, I think, 4 letters home in the last few weeks about positive cases in the school. So, it's like it's a tightrope. It really is. And I think, being cautious and being deliberate is important and prudent versus being a little cavalier. And because once that, if things go really bad, it's hard to recover. And I don't know that we even want to go through that. So there is conversation, but I don't know of many that are taking the week off proactively after spring break. I'm hopeful that, and here will be the first announcement, that everyone is very safe on spring break. That if you do gather, that everyone's being safe, socially distanced, and mask wear appropriate. I guess unless you're vaccinated and everyone else is vaccinated, then it could be. So if everyone's just does their best, we want to finish the school year. We want to end the school year with everyone healthy, with everyone safe, and with really fun activities that the kids can enjoy for the last part of the year. And I think we can do that safely. It becomes so difficult if we're dealing with more and more positive cases because that just restricts everything that we do. So everyone, please do your best. Keep socially distanced. Keep your masks on. And then for the next few weeks, let's have a good, strong showing so that we end the year doing all the fun things that we want to do.
And I guess one other clarification is I know the state moved its quarantine protocol from presumed positive to positive. Mm-hmm. But I guess one of the things that as districts bring more students back into the building, mm-hmm. in the event of positives, I'd imagine quarantine ripple effects would be larger potentially by virtue of just proximity.
Correct. Yeah, I anticipate that happening to some extent. We'll probably have more students or staff that need to quarantine based upon potential activity, but I think that's right. That's due in part to the increased density in the building. But I'm not sure that the transmission is going to increase any because I'm not sure that we've, that's been a major issue of school transmissions. But we'll see. And, and the quarantine rules are different, right? So when you travel, that's the other thing too, if you're traveling, please let us know so that Mrs. Sidlasa can kind of connect with you on how you need to quarantine upon return. If you're going outside the Connecticut, Pennsylvania, New York, Delaware area, you still are subject to quarantine. So let's make sure that we all do our part there. The virtual learning is still an option in every grade level. And the same thing, it's like if you feel sick, stay home. You're not gonna fall behind. We'll make sure we keep up with whatever you need to do. There's, like I said, virtual at every grade level. So I think if everyone does their part, we're going to end up in a good place. If we get too laxed, we're going to end up sending lots of letters and quarantines and all that. And then we just, no one wants to do that. So.
Thank you for that clarification. Sure. Mrs. Wang, any additional comments online?
Yep.
Okay. So no additional comments. And then just one check with the negotiations committee. I see we have potentially on executive negotiations. I don't know if we have an update different from the last meeting and would need that session. Next week? Okay. All right, so then we do not need to go to executive for that. So at this point, I will call for a motion to adjourn. If I could get that motion, Mr. Sabatino, thank you. If I could get a second, Lorraine, thank you. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes? Opposed? None? All right, thank you very much. Thank you, folks. Have a good night, and we'll be back in our business session next week.